Hi, church. Shalom. Wishing you the blessings of God. I welcome you to the new Bethel. We are dispensing the second wine. I remain the high priest of this altar. Nono Ogochukwu Eloike. How have you been? The grace of God is with you always. You have time, you have talent. So today we are looking at the theme in God's presence. If you will move with me to the book of Exodus 33:14 to 16, we encountered a Moses who refused to delve into the land of Canaan if the presence of God will not go with them. We are in the book of Genesis 4:16. We encountered a Cain who was removed from the presence of God. And then we encountered in Exodus 14:131, there is a mandate to press forward. The presence of God is the Spirit of God. That you are in the presence of a person, it means that you are in the protection of that person. What happens outside the presence does not cover for that protection, because now you have been put in a position where the person that is supposed to protect you wasn't aware that you're going through something. Now, in the case of God's presence can only be sustained based on certain rituals. You are a priest. We are all priests. That's why you will see in Revelation 1, the first mandate, the first revelation that Christ gave to John was that he is making a priest. They're making a priest of humankind. In the position we are, imagine Cain in all his evil, in all his wickedness. He was actually concerned when God moved him to the east. The land of the east, you read Genesis 2, you will see that Eden is in the east and the garden is in the Eden. Eden is the dwelling place of the people they call the wanderers. They're not humans, but they're humanoids, they're creatures. That is why the dominion of man was for those creatures, because the thing that deceived them, called the beast, has been placed in the sea. So we are encountering in East, those creatures, they don't have body, but they're wanderers. They're called wanderers. So Cain became the first man that was moved to the land of the wanderers. And even when he was removed in the presence of God, it pained him. But there are criteria that bring the presence of God. We will look at the people of Israel in the wilderness. They kept complaining about God, and now they made a move that was outside the will of God. That is what removes you from the presence of God. The will of God are the superior intelligence, the rules that fosters the protection, the love of God. It is God's one desire that humanity will be like God. Creations will mirror God and be like God. So anything outside this protocol takes you away from the will of God. And for you, the will of God has one end goal, that we'll all be like God. To be like God means to be a vessel through which God can manifest. You see, for anything to be, you have to manifest through a being, through your own creation. We cannot be saying God, God. It doesn't matter whether you love God or hate God. You can't say God, God, God. Yeah, I love God, I don't like God, and all that thing, unless you are a creation. So the moment we are still referencing to God, God is. God become existence through us. That is why by the death of Abel, Eve had to birth Seth, and Seth birthed Enosh, who brought back the worship of God. The worship of God is the witnessing of God, the manifestation of God. That yet again we have a vessel that manifests the glory of God. The end goal is worship for all of us, that you will eventually become the vessel that manifests the presence of God, that people will look at you, that they will come to the rising of your star. You begin to lure people because they want to look the way you are looking. They want to be the way you are. They want to experience the glory in you. That is how the gospel is spread, making you vessels. That is why the Great Commissioning is witnessing for God. So, but the presence of God must be sustained for glory to manifest. And it is God's utmost purpose, one desire, called will, that vessels will become vessels of manifesting the will of God. That presence of God is the glory of God, the CHABOD of God. Because if God will manifest through you, God is. So if you are a singer, God is singing. If you are a preacher, God is preaching. If you are a dancer, God is dancing. Can you see it? The glory is going back to God because we have now understood. You are now observing the rules for manifesting the God's power. But we have a thief in our midst called Satan, as Christ revealed in John 10:10, whose assignment is to steal this glory of God from you, to take it away from you, that when you begin to manifest glory, the glory thief will say, is not God, is me. Isaiah 14:14, that the king of Babylon said what? I will elevate myself above the will of God. That it will not follow the rules of God to manifest the power of God, it will steal it. So it's seeking to steal what does not belong to it. So we are now in a position as believers commissioned to wage war against this mandate, this protocol, this vile spirit, whose assignment is it to steal the will of God. So are you seeing how this protocol means? That for you to carry the presence of God, you must manifest the will of God. You must be living in the will of God. If you're singing, for instance, there are a lot of musicians out there who sing. But when they sing, they follow the protocols of humans. A record label signs you and then they're telling you, don't sing something like this, sing something like this. They literally control the output. And they're telling you that's what the audience wants to hear. And the assignments of the king of Babylon, called Satan, is to make sure that whatever you do, don't put God first. But you that is a believer has been called to put God first, to elevate God, that the will of God must supersede every mandate you are about to do foster. It is no longer about whether you are interested in this protocol or not. It is more about you following the set out rules on how to manifest this power. And you know what happens? Christ now said, if you will follow the will of God to manifest the power, you will be eternal. Because you will be like God. Isn't it wonderful? People sing and go. Great musicians come and go. People dance and go. People do all sorts of things. But because they didn't follow the will of God, they were forgotten. Christ came to live that life for us. Christ followed the will of God. Christ is the will of God. And today we still have billions of people, over thousands, 2,000 years ago, still following the teachings of Christ, call themselves the replicas of Christ, call themselves Christians. Isn't it beautiful that God will live on through us? We saw Apostle Paul, Apostle Peter, Apostle John. Every day we're saying the gospel according to. Because these beings became vessels through which God represents for us. That if you will manifest your light in accordance with the will of God, you will not die. Because you will create vessels that will consistently reference the wisdom that God gave you. So long as they are still referencing you, you will be in existence. You cannot die because you exist in order. Shiba. So you cannot be removed in the presence of God, believer. And to make sure that you remain in the presence of God and enjoy the presence of God and be in Eden, where the attacks of the enemy will not come. Because all the protocols of the Bible is committed to you being in Eden, in the presence of God. That's what Eden means, presence of God. That if you are in the presence of God, the weapons will not prosper. In the presence of God, affliction will not rise again. In the presence of God, you will make declarations and it will stand. In the presence of God, there is an overflow. Come on, people. And that presence does not mean you going to your religious institutions. That is iron sharpening iron. You going among